I'm Eric Bricker, and I've been a psychotherapist for over 25 years. One thing I can tell you for certain is that no one makes it through life unscathed. At some point, many of us will rely on the trusted counsel of another person to help us navigate difficult times, or to reconcile a troubled past. Whether conventional or unconventional, professional or informal, there are a lot of different forms that helping relationships can take. This podcast is an exploration into what makes these relationships work. Who are the people that help us? How do they help us? What do people need help with? My hope is to uncover as much as I can about this very human phenomenon, and I hope that you'll join me. This is the Good Counsel Podcast. I'm Eric Bricker, and this is the Good Counsel Podcast. I have the honor today to be joined by Dave Aronberg, who will be talking about his newly minted publication, Fighting the Florida Shuffle, which discusses a lot of his work as the head of the Sober Homes Task Force and the work that you did to help clean up the addiction treatment industry and protect a lot and help a lot of people back in 2016, 2017. Before we get started with all this, I want to say something to you personally. I had worked in addiction treatment from about 2001 to maybe 2019 before I went into private practice. So I had worked in treatment. Back 2001 to 2010, this was a thing that we were proud to be doing, right? It was the mecca of recovery. People were coming from all over the country to take advantage of treatment here. There were these miraculous and incredible outcomes and these things that people were accomplishing. It was just a thing that we were all proud to be a part of. And then stuff started changing. And it got so bad that we're looking around us thinking that this just may be beyond repair. They literally turned the mecca of recovery into a penal colony of corruption and exploitation. And then comes the Sober Homes Task Force, and little by little, you guys did this incredible work. You got the bad guys out of the industry. A lot of them just left the state or went to jail. And now the kind of behavioral health in South Florida is restored. It's a lot better than what it was, and we have credibility again.
Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, I want to thank you for all that.
Well, it was a team effort. And I was fortunate to have an amazing team at the state attorney's office. Al Johnson, Ted Paddock. We had a team of investigators, prosecutors, and then we had buy-in from the community, where stakeholders in the community, people who wanted to pay it forward and clean up the industry because they went through treatment themselves and they opened up a treatment center or a sober home, and they're watching as their patients are being siphoned away, lured away by unscrupulous marketers who are offering free gifts, free rent, drugs, and they want to do something about this too. So we needed the good players in the industry. We needed those who went through it, went through the ringer themselves, and wanted us to pay it forward to others to help us in our effort, all hands on deck. And together we're able to clean up the industry here in Palm Beach County and make it, I would say, the most ethical, effective drug treatment industry in anywhere. In Palm Beach County always had a successful drug treatment industry, but it got infiltrated by bad actors, and now we've gotten rid of nearly all of them.
So I have many, many questions, but again, if you need to interrupt or anything at any time, I'm just excited to have you here. Like I said, I've been following your work for a long time. It's an honor to have you here today.
Thanks, man.
So July of 2016, you are tasked to head up the Sober Homes Task Force. At that time, you were the Palm Beach County state attorney. And I understand that in Florida, a state attorney, it means something a little bit different than in other states, because to be the Palm Beach County state attorney, it's actually you're the state attorney over a larger district. So it wasn't just Palm Beach County. You had authority. You were prosecuting in other counties as well, or other areas as well?
Well, Florida has to be different than everywhere else, Eric. State attorney is just the same thing as district attorney elsewhere. So
Gotcha.
My district was just Palm Beach County.
Okay, it was.
There are 67 counties in Florida, but there are 20 state attorneys. So each state attorney has a larger district than normally their own county. But because Palm Beach County is so large, my district is the county.
Gotcha. So that's enough district for one person. That's plenty. So again, July 2016, you're tasked with heading up the Sober Homes Task Force. I have a question for you about that. Was this something that you wanted to do? Did somebody approach you about this? How does this go down? How does this happen?
We heard from individuals in Delray Beach, which was ground zero for the Florida Shuffle. We heard from business leaders, advocates, people who went through recovery themselves, and they were saying that there is this problem where all these rogue sober homes have opened up, and they're taking advantage of people in recovery. And there's nothing that the cities can do. They're not allowed, in their mind at the time, they didn't feel they were allowed to regulate them, to certify them, to inspect them because of the Americans with Disabilities Act that limited local governments from overseeing these places. HOAs inside of communities couldn't do it either because of the Americans with Disabilities Act. So they turned to us, and we looked at it and said, well, the laws are really weak. Yes, patient brokering is a crime. You can't pay to put a head in a bed. Yes, drug trafficking is a crime. Yes, insurance fraud is a crime. But based on what was going on inside these sober homes, we needed to reform the laws to strengthen them because it was tough to prove drug trafficking, but it was easy to prove patient brokering. But the patient brokering laws were so weak that it didn't make sense. I mean, it would take like 50 counts to get someone prison time. So we decided to not only have a special enforcement unit, but also a separate civilian side to reform the laws. And my book just came in. And Andrew, can you hand me my book? Thank you. By the way, the book just came in, hot off the presses. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Here it is, Fighting the Florida Shuffle.
Fighting the Florida Shuffle.
There it is. So please, it's check it out. You can get it on Amazon or anywhere where books are sold. This is the paperback version. It's also sold in hardcover. And I appreciate you, Eric, for ordering it. It's important to get the word out. The reason why I wrote this book, it's a call to action because local governments around the country are not aware of this problem. They don't have a task force like we did in Palm Beach County. And it's a call to action to our federal officials, members of Congress, to get off their butts and actually change the laws that enable this. It's bad enough that people are coming down to Florida and California, all these tourist locations where people go get recovery, rehab, and then leaving in an ambulance or a body bag. But it's worse, if you can imagine anything being worse, that it's being fueled by well-intended federal laws, that there are so many unnecessary deaths that didn't have to happen, but for these well-intended federal laws like the Americans with Disabilities Act, like the Affordable Care Act, that have some excesses that need to be tweaked because they are incentivizing corruption in the drug treatment industry.
Well, I was going to say, it's ironic, right, that the Americans with Disabilities Act, which really exists to help vulnerable individuals, was actually the tool that was used to exploit vulnerable individuals. And it's very disturbing and insidious how criminal minds work. I have a question for you about this, right? I'm going to try to articulate this intelligently because I'm going somewhere here. So you convened a grand jury investigation. You did that, looks like pretty much right off the rip when you got appointed. And the lawmakers didn't require you to do that. It sounds like you did it on your own. I have a feeling I know why you did that, but I wanted to hear from you. Why did you decide to do that? Because again, more labor intensive, a lot more work for you to do this, to, do this investigation, to come together with all these findings, to have to report this stuff. Why the grand jury investigation?
The grand jury is a tool that state attorneys' offices can use to investigate things, crises that are out there. Like after we had a school shooting down in Broward County, the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas school shooting down in Parkland, we impaneled a grand jury to investigate school security, to make sure there are no gaps, to make sure we're protected in Palm Beach County. So the grand jury is not just used to indict people, it can also be an investigative tool. And then when we saw this crisis in the drug treatment sober home industries, we impaneled a grand jury in addition to moving forward with the Sober Homes Task Force to try to find solutions. And one of the suggestions that was made by this grand jury, which heard lots of testimony behind closed doors, was that Google had a problem. That if you searched on the internet, like many people did, for rehab near me, up would come rehabs not near you, but rehabs that bought the term rehab near me. You can buy search words and Google would sell it to the highest bidder. So people would get trafficked to other parts of the country, lured by false advertisements on Google. So we identified that. And Google, to its credit, actually changed its policies. What they did was they used a third party called Legit Scripts to vet these treatment centers so that no longer can treatment centers just buy up keywords and deceive potential patients into believing that the treatment center is next door or whatnot. And that has installed a new level of honesty in the advertising, because the false advertising is the tip of the spear of the Florida Shuffle. It's what lures people into this shuffle, which is a nonstop, endless relapse cycle rather than recovery, where the money is in relapse, not recovery, where the money is in failure, not sobriety.
Absolutely. And when you talk about that, it's a nuanced thing that I think is hard for lay people to wrap their head around. But it's kind of like if you relapse as a client in a treatment center, you immediately become more of a valuable commodity because your benefits reset. And if we can get you hooked back on substances and back into a treatment center, then immediately you're going to have your benefits reset. You're going to be able to bill at the highest levels for urine drug screens and for detox and higher levels of care. And that's where the kickbacks come in, right?
Yeah, the marketers are making money because they're sending a patient to a designated treatment center. Then the labs make money because they get an illegal kickback from testing the urine or whatnot. The outpatient treatment center gets and gives kickbacks. Everyone's making money off this. The only area that is not profitable is sobriety. And if you're a good treatment center trying to do the right thing, trying to get someone healthy, you're losing patients to the rogue, unscrupulous ones, the ones that offer to pay to play. Your patients are going to the place that charges no money for rent in their sober homes or gives you free transportation, the free plane ticket, all these other illegal benefits. And so you're losing your clientele to the bad guys, and those individuals are often willing victims. You see, Eric, if you went to the doctor and the doctor said, you know, you've got a broken arm. This is why your arm is hurting. It's broken. We need to set it and fix it. But if you come back every month, I can re-break it, and then I'll give you $1,000, and we'll just charge insurance every month. Come back. We'll do this for years. You would say, get lost. I'm calling the cops. But when you have the brain disease of addiction, when you have substance use disorder, you're often a willing victim. You'll take the free benefits. You'll take the money, the free rent, the drugs, and you'll stay in this endless cycle until you die. And that's the tragedy here.
Well, I was working for legit organizations during that time, and we were watching this happen, and this is who we were competing with, right? So you had these clients now who had the expectation that they were going to be provided with free housing after treatment, and they were going to be given cigarettes and money for food and all these inducements that were really antithetical to recovery because there's no incentive to get a job, to rejoin the community. And it just killed all of the willingness, things that people would learn in AA about responsibility and personal accountability. You just took all that away. And then these people just became these human commodities that the longer they could keep them in the system, the more money they could extract, because you're talking about all the urine drug screens and all these different things that these unscrupulous individuals were doing to get money from them, from their insurance policies. So it was a nightmare, and it was a nightmare trying to compete with these organizations when you're trying to do legitimate work.
It's part of the tragedy is that there are good providers out there, people like you who want to help people, and the system works against you. The system makes sure you get paid less than the bad providers. The system encourages the fraud and abuse that steals your patients away from you and sends them to your competitor who's not playing by the rules. And that's what's so outrageous about this. That's why I wrote the book. I wanted the federal officials to know what's going on. I went before Congress and I testified twice about this problem. And both times, members of Congress, they listened, they were polite, and they did what Congress does. Nothing. And so I wrote the book to try to get them to do something, or at the very least, to get local governments around the country, like we did here in Palm Beach County, to follow our lead.
Yeah. So when you convened the grand jury and you came to the end of the investigation, you write this 37-page report. And this report includes a lot of recommendations from the task force. And some of these some of these recommendations ended up becoming law in the state of Florida. And it's pretty incredible accomplishment, because it really changes the way all of this is investigated, litigated, processed, and the punishments when people break these laws around marketing, which prior to the task force, there were no laws, or they were very loosely enforced. Now that there are. So can you talk a little bit about some of the laws that the task force, you and the other folks that you were working with, that you influenced, and some of the changes now that are now enforceable?
Well, we now have much tougher laws in the books. So now if you engage in patient brokering, it's a felony. It's not a misdemeanor. It's not a slap in the wrist. You're going to jail. If you engage in false advertising, lying to potential patients, you're going to jail. Before, it used to get these marketers that would tell you that they were sending you down to Heavenly Valley Recovery in Delray Beach. Mind you, there are no valleys in Delray Beach, and where you're going was not heavenly. And they would steal phone numbers from legitimate places. So you'd go to Google search, and you'd look up the phone number for the good rehab near you, and up that phone number would be stolen by a different facility. So you'd try to call that number, but the number would actually redirect you to their number, the one who's paying to play and sending you the free plane ticket. The free plane ticket is now a felony. I mean, before, it was tough for those in recovery to turn down the free plane ticket. You mean I'll get a one-way ticket to Palm Beach, and they'd get off the plane at the airport, sometimes with golf clubs, sometimes with polo saddles, really, because we have horse country out west. But that was not realistic. That was because of the lies, the false advertising. And then we did other things that was more on the prevention side. We were able to get Narcan in the hands of people at risk in the communities, not just the first responders, but people who actually would need to implement them right away and save lives. We also helped start an addiction stabilization unit, which broke the cycle of addiction. So instead of people who overdose going to the emergency room to get patched back up only to be released and relapse again, sometimes we saw people would overdose again in the hospital's own parking lot. We had one person who overdosed 4 times in a day. Can you imagine? The firefighters come out, they save you, the paramedics save you, go to the hospital, back out, relapse. 4 times in one day. That was a record. So now Palm Beach County started a addiction stabilization unit that gives people who overdose medication-assisted treatment to break that cycle of addiction. So we're doing a lot of things right. We're not perfect, but that's why I say I think that we provide that roadmap for the rest of the country, because you can't arrest your way out of this problem. You need to have good prevention, good quality ethical rehabilitation, as well as strong enforcement.
Yeah, that's incredible. I know that under the sober home cleanup bill, which some of the items in the bill eventually were made into law, that patient brokering now gets added to this list of crimes that are punishable under the RICO Act, right? So now patient brokering, this illicit marketing, all this stuff, now this is considered organized crime.
Well, yeah, although RICO has been used in so many ways that it's no longer just for the mafia anymore. I mean, it was used in the P. Diddy case, used in the R. Kelly case. It was used in the Donald Trump case in Fulton County. RICO has been used way beyond the mafia. So yeah, it made sense to use it here. If you're dealing with an ongoing criminal enterprise that has at least 2 predicate acts, yes, you should not get a get out of jail free card if you're in the drug treatment industry. You can't just say, well, I didn't know what the law was, or I'm trying to help people. It doesn't matter that I'm paying to play, or I am engaging in human trafficking, or in drug trafficking, or insurance fraud. No, you're going down. You're going down for a long time. And I think that's one reason why we cleaned up the industry in Palm Beach County, is because there are not a lot of better ways to quickly change someone's behavior than to force them to wear a pair of steel bracelets and an orange jumpsuit.
Sure. And I imagine with the RICO thing, it allows you to cast a wider net, right? So you can get more people, because once they're in that, it becomes everybody who's involved once you're using RICO. So it's serious. And if you're affiliated with a guy who's in trouble for this stuff, you too are headed for trouble. And I imagine that scared a lot of people and probably resulted in a lot more cooperating witnesses as a result.
Yeah, RICO is a politician's best friend. It allows you to go back in time beyond the statute of limitations to bring in bad acts. It actually allows you to bring in bad acts that you wouldn't otherwise be able to bring in a trial. And you can bring in other people too. Just show this is part of the enterprise. So yes, it's a powerful tool used by prosecutors.
Awesome. I noticed that there is a sword behind you as we're talking, and it's very fitting that that's there. It looks like there's, what is that?
That is a gift. Those are swords. It's a sword with a sheath. That's a gift from the Florida Prosecuting Attorney Association. So when I retired from being state attorney after 12 years, they gave me this award. It's a Eugene Whitworth Award. It's an honor by the association for service, named after a state attorney who lost his life when he was killed by a defendant in a case. And so we honor his legacy. And then that sword it's like a sword of justice. I thought it was pretty cool. I was like, I can't wait to put that behind me when I do TV or streaming. The only problem is the glass that's on it is reflective glass. So it reflects the lights that are here. So if I have the ring light, you can see, I'll move my head. You can see sort of the ring light. There it is. I just broke the fourth wall there. You can sort of see the light. So I need to get some non-reflective glass. I didn't even know there's such a thing. I didn't know like reflective glass versus non-reflective glass, but I'm learning fast.
I got to tell you, it looks super cool. It definitely, let's go with that. I like it behind you for this interview. Brother. It looks good.
Yeah, I do it now for all my interviews. I just think it's a pretty cool visual.
Definitely. Totally cool. I love it. So, again, you want to hear a funny story real quick?
Yeah, man.
You and I are emailing back and forth. You agree to do this. I'm thrilled. I'm like, oh my God, I got Dave Aronberg coming on the podcast. I'm so excited about it. They're all people who work in treatment and stuff.
Really?
Behavioral health. So everybody knows who you are and they're happy for me. So I go ahead and order the book. Mm-hmm. And it's like a 2-week delay from Amazon. So it's actually supposed to arrive tomorrow. And I'm thinking to myself, that's me, that's my luck. So I spent all day yesterday like downloading these archives from the Palm Beach Post and trying to remember these different things that were going on, because I was following it when it was happening, because it affected all of us here. And everyone was, and when you started actually arresting people and putting people away, and then a lot of these programs started shutting down, and a lot of these nefarious operators started leaving the state, we were all looking at that like, wow, this is happening, because it looked for a time like it might have been beyond repair. And now you look at it today, we have a pretty thriving behavioral health industry down here. And in South Florida. So again, the debt of gratitude. So let me ask you a question. Along the way, I mean, you're taking a pretty deep dive into some dark stuff. And I'm sure you obviously have the stomach for it. You're a prosecuting attorney, major crime. But when you go back and you look at all the stuff that was going on during the Sober Homes task force investigations, what to you was the most impactful on an emotional level? When you think about the things that really kind of get you on an emotional or personal level, what was the thing that really moved you the most? Or is it all business and you got to kind of keep it, you got to be professional about it all times, keep the veil going? Or was there anything that really kind of got to you?
The first chapter of the book, which tells the story of a woman I call Sasha. And it is just an unbelievable story they have to see for yourself, where she was living in a Kenny Chapman sober home. And he required all the women in the house to either have sex with strangers for money to live there for free, or to steal purses from Worth Avenue, which is Palm Beach's Rodeo Drive. And how her ID and all of her valuables were taken away, and all the doors and windows were sealed shut, and an endless parade of men used to come in and commit atrocities. I mean, this was a house of horrors, subsidized by your tax dollars and policyholders' money. And this was, to me, the epitome of the evil in the industry. And he was eventually arrested, charged, and he's serving a 27.5-year prison sentence. His wife's in prison as well. And to me, that is so shocking what you see, this, like I said, house of horrors, this addiction recovery brothel, that it just shocks the conscience. And I want people to realize that these are real people. And one way for me to make sure it's not just some anonymous statistic was to tell her story. And I want to protect her identity. So I gave her a different first name, but the name I gave her was my wife's name, Sasha, because I wanted, at least for me, to remember that this can be anyone, and addiction does not discriminate. And so that story needed to be told. It needed to be told at the beginning of the book. So hopefully it'll grab your attention when you see it, and you'll go from there.
I have right in front of me, it's an article from the Palm Beach Post, February 22nd, 2017. And it's about the Kenneth Chapman.
There it is.
Yeah, it's about the Kenneth Chapman investigation and arrest and sentencing. And like you said, 27 years. He was operating Reflections Treatment Center in Margate. And, it stands out from that time period. I think all of us will remember that name, the infamy of it, for all time, because that was the level of insidiousness of exploitation that was occurring. This guy literally had a treatment center. He was recruiting these women into the program. He was getting them hooked on heroin. They were like prisoners there, and he was trafficking them. And to hear something like that, it sounds so sensational. You wouldn't think it could happen in the United States. It sounds like something that would happen like in a third world country or something, but it's happening right here. And it was insane when that got revealed. And I think a lot of people really took great relief, and really it was a great thing to see justice done, and to see all of these operations shut down, and to see this guy doing time as he should be.
Indeed. And that's part of the happy ending, really, in that chapter, was that this guy is no longer harming innocent victims anymore. And there is a sense of justice in the book. I mean, we call it fighting the Florida Shuffle, because it's not just identifying the problem. It's talking about the successes we've had fighting this problem, and how other communities can follow our lead. So we do have some tales of people who sadly will not be coming back, real tragedies, but we also show people who managed to escape, to live to tell about it. And Eric, I appreciate the chance to talk about it here on your show. I'm sorry that I need to leave, but I want you to, and your viewers, to know how much I appreciate their support of the book and of the cause of making sure that those who need help, those with substance use disorder, get the help they need and are not exploited by bad actors who see them as nothing more than a commodity rather than a human being. So I appreciate your spreading the word.
Thank you so much, Dave. Thank you for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been Dave Aronberg on the Good Counsel Podcast. And let's get out there and check out that book, Fighting the Florida Shuffle. I can't wait to get my copy.
Thank you, Eric. Great show.
All right. Thank you. Take care.